As a result of especially the stuff that came out of the American Academy of Pediatrics, there were a number of places that started writing screen time policies. Okay, a policy, a written commitment to families that you serve to follow guidelines according to standards of quality for health, safety, and school success. Some of you may work in places where you've got screen time guidelines. I don't know. But here are some examples of some that come from a workshop that was done in the state of Michigan. So these are all Michigan policies. These are not Kentucky policies. I couldn't find Kentucky policies online. But some daycare, child care centers have established policies like this. And at the time, they were considered to meet or exceed best practice. They might feel a little bit stringent, and maybe in light of the revised American Academy guidelines, they are. But here's what they are. Computer time is limited to 2 days a week and 15 minutes per child at this facility. So parents know that at that facility, that's as much screen time as their child will have. Or we do not allow any screen time in our programs under age 5. We allow 1 hour per day of screen time for children age 5 and up in our school age care programs. Another one that seems pretty stringent. And here's the strongest one. We do not have computers, televisions, video games, or anything related to that in our center. So there is no technology in that center. It's a good excuse if you don't have enough money for technology. You just say, nope, can't do that. No, I'm being facetious. But you may see some of those kinds of policies, and it'll be interesting to see if the policies shift a little bit with some of the new guidelines. Okay, now I'm going to shift gears just a minute and provide you some tips for managing tech time in order to prioritize communication. These came out of primarily some of the work that I've been doing with the American Speech Language Hearing Association. So these tips show up in some of the ASHA publications. The first one sounds familiar. Create tech-free times. 1 to 2 opportunities a day when there is no technology. Mealtime is a prime opportunity where we check our devices at the kitchen door. I didn't say it when I saw it on the slide a minute ago. Another prime place to make tech-free is the bedroom. You know, if at all possible, it'd be good to keep computers, iPads, telephones, televisions, anything else that's technology that's screen related out of kids' bedrooms, in part because there is a temptation to use them at bedroom kinds of times, which means you're interacting with that screen right before you're trying to settle down and go to sleep, which can be a problem. And also in part because the caregiving routines around bedtime are a prime opportunity for parent-child verbal communication interaction. And if you interface that computer or that screen in the middle of that interaction, it takes away from that interaction, okay, or in some cases absolutely destroys it. So if you can find 2 places to make tech-free, mealtime, kitchen, or dining room, wherever you eat, and bedroom would probably be the 2 primary places. Resist over-reliance on technology to pacify boredom. You know, how many times do you see kids riding around in their minivan, in their child seat with that little video player right above their heads with that screen going in and it means parents don't have to talk to the kids. They don't have to worry as much about what they're doing. But listen to what I just said. Parents don't have to talk to their kids. Well, when you're traveling, when you're driving, it's another opportunity to do some interaction. Now, I know there are times when you got to focus on the road and you want to be careful, but there's also a lot of opportunity to talk about what you're seeing and what you're doing and where you're going to be going and do language that you can't do if you're tied to a screen. About half of parents of 0 to 3-year-olds use technology to entertain, and that means we're abdicating our responsibilities when we do that. This is an interesting one. We haven't talked about that. Don't overestimate the value of educational apps. There are a bunch of them out there. And later on, Dr. Kleinert will be talking with you about how you might look at those apps. Just because something is for sale, or even better, free, at the App Store someplace, and it says it's educational, you guys know better than that. Don't assume that it is. Kids learn better by talking, conversing, reading, not by listening to some little turtle say, ball, here's a ball, or whatever your educational app is doing. Okay. So technology, if you use it, is best used for reinforcement and practice of things the child might already know, not for specific teaching and helping them figure out the regularities. So it doesn't say stay away and never touch technology, but think about what it's doing and what the educational value actually is. Do you feel like I'm preaching? I'm sorry. Um, all right, next one. Make tech use a group activity. So if you're going to use technology, do it together. Play a game together, interact with something together, talk about what you're doing. Make it a conversational or a communication opportunity, not a solitary play activity. Consider carefully whether or not young children really need their own dedicated devices. There's more and more things out there, little iPads with all the protection to make them appropriate for kids, knockdown versions of things, and many of them are designed and marketed just for kids, and people buy their kids their own devices. Well, the disadvantage of that is it's harder to keep it away, and it's harder to control, and it's more likely to lead to solitary tech time. On the other hand, some of the child-friendly technology might have limited content, but all the content is child appropriate, and you won't get into the things that a child shouldn't experience when they get onto more adult technology. And many of the child related things also have extra security built in. So it's easier for you to control what's happening. So you have to decide what's more important to me. And if I do go for the kid related stuff, how am I going to still try to control that use to make sure that it doesn't become the primary interaction that the child has? So think about it. Set daily time limits. If you can program a device to shut off by itself, that's perfect, because sometimes it's really hard to enforce those rules. But if the device turns off, then it's sort of self-enforced. If you can't do that, keep track yourself and try to limit the amount of time a child accesses a device. Okay, be consistent in enforcing any parameters you do set. So if you say, we're not going to use any technology after dinner, for example, then be consistent about it. Majority, as I said, set the limits, but don't stick to them. Where people seem to have the most trouble sticking to those limits is as kids get older and are better at pushing your buttons. 7, 8-year-olds are better to get you to do some, are better able to get you to shift just a little bit than maybe some of the younger kids. But consistency is really important. In a tribute to my audiology friends, always practice safe listening, especially anytime that the device is delivering the sound directly to the ear via earbuds or headphones. Okay. It's bad enough when it's just out in the environment, but if you've got something that's coming directly into your ears, misuse can actually lead to noise-induced hearing loss. And there is an increase in our society in hearing loss in kids who are adolescents because of all of the use, all of the listening to all the music with headphones and listening to it too loud. And we know that even a minor hearing loss has a negative impact on a child's academic performance, on their social interaction. If you can't hear as well, it's harder to be part of the group, on their vocational desires, and on just about every other area of life. So even a little hearing loss is potentially damaging. So we want to keep the volume down on anything we use, and most of people will tell us don't set the volume more than half volume. If you keep it below there, you're probably going to be okay. But also take lots of listening breaks. Take the devices out of your ears, off your ears, and let your ears recover. Okay. So we want to be careful about practicing safe listening. Model the tech habits you want your kids to adopt. I already told you that. Practice what you preach in terms of both tech time and safe listening. So if you're nagging your 4-year-old to take the earphones off because it's been on too long, don't do it with your earphones in your ears. Do the same thing. Another important one that I think is critical is learn to recognize the signs of communication disorders. Regardless of technology use, it's good to recognize when you've got a child who's got either speech problems or language production or language comprehension problems, and try to get early treatment so you can either reverse or prevent. Please, please, please do not sit back passively and wait for a child to outgrow there's a possibility it might be a problem that will be passing, that will be developmentally rectified. But let somebody who knows that area tell you that. Don't just assume they'll outgrow it. And obviously, and I know this is my bias coming in, seek help from a speech language pathologist or an audiologist if you have any concern about a child that you're interacting with in terms of their communication development. Okay. Okay, a few more suggestions for reducing screen time. Some of these you can say, we know that. Take it out of the bedroom. Don't allow TV during meals or homework. I'm appalled at how many kids do homework with TV in the background. You know, it's one more distraction and one more access to screen time. Don't let the child eat while watching TV or on the computer. So we already said keep it out of the kitchen, but what about if we just take dinner into the living room and we can be on the computer there, right? No, don't do that. Don't let those two things get intermingled. So eating time is really tech-free time. Don't use TV for background noise. People who say that say it's the radio doesn't have as much negative impact on it because it tends to be melodic and doesn't have conversation. So if you need background, do radio instead of TV. Better yet, don't use noise. Also, this is TV specific. Decide what programs or even what screen things you're going to do ahead of time, and then turn the device off when they're done instead of just keeping it on and shopping for more stuff to watch or to do. Yeah. Suggest other activities instead of screen time. This is old stuff. Board games, puzzles, walking, doing something outdoors. It really is okay to do that. And if one of the problems is decreased physical activity on our kids' part because they're too much in front of technology, let's get them out. And it may be that let's go out together, which gives you more time to talk, more time to interact, and good exercise and activity for both the child and the parent or caregiver. Record, here's a kind of a cool strategy. Record how much time is spent in front of a screen and then make a commitment to spend an equal amount of time being active. So if you're going to sit with your computer for an hour, then you're going to do something active for an hour. You know, at least it doesn't take away the computer time, but it gives you a good thing to go with it. Try using a sleep function. So if you've got a TV on, it turns off automatically. Use a switch control for other devices that might turn off automatically. Challenge your family to go for a week without TV or screens. See what happens. It's amazing when families do that. They find out that they survive and they actually have a good time. Okay. Now, I've been harping about reasons not to use technology. Let's try to be a little bit fair and say there are arguments that people have made for using technology. And we're going to spend a chunk of time today talking about technology and using. So I don't mean to damn technology. I mean to try to say, think about what the effects can be and find a way to use it effectively and where it belongs. People will tell you that if you're careful about what you choose, both in terms of the screen itself and the content, it can help facilitate learning. Interactive ebooks for kids who are old enough to take advantage of them help stimulate reading habits. There are innovative apps out there like Google Goggles or Hidden Park that you can use when you go outside that can add to your outdoor adventure. Parents or caregivers who are savvy use technology to supplement books, to supplement neighborhood activities, to supplement free play, not to replace it. So if you can kind of keep that in mind, especially when we say it's okay to use it for kids over 2, think about how you can use it to supplement and not replace. Okay, but, and here's the thing to remember, this does not appear to be true for kids younger than 2. There is, the people have been able to find no evidence of cognitive benefit for screen use in kids 0 to 2. Okay, so if somebody's trying to peddle you an app for your 5-month-old to help them learn something, at least what we've been able to find in the literature, there's no evidence yet that that stuff is effective for those little kids. Older than 2, yeah. High quality media, you might see improved social skills, improved language skills, better school readiness. So technology could have an important role for those older kids. Okay, and we're not going to look at this because I would like to stop and let, yeah, I was going to say it'd be a good time for questions before we're going to shift gears and switch from me to Dr. Kleiner. So before I sit down, if anybody has questions either in this room or out in cyberspace out there. Yeah, Melinda.
So just to clarify, in terms of damaging the hearing, wearing earphones or earbuds at the correct volume do not
That's correct.
damage your hearing. It's when you are using those too loud of a volume.
That's correct. Yeah, it's noise-induced hearing loss, and so if you have anything too loud, you'll run the risk of damaging those little sensitive little hair cells and the nerves that help you hear. Yeah. You can, although it's too loud. That's your biggest risk. Do you know other than that, Dr. Kleiner? Yeah, I'm more familiar with too loud. Melinda's question was it okay to wear earbuds or earphones? Period. Was it the volume that made a difference? I'm paraphrasing, and I said yes. That's really the volume, and it may be. We'll need to look up about that length. That's a good question. We'll try to get you an answer. Yeah. Well, do you have some of the others?
We had a question from the chat box, and the question is, what does the research say about reading books on a Kindle or an iPad versus reading print books?
The research I have seen says screens of all kind are not as effective as reading the real object. And I would assume that, I've not seen anybody specifically talk about Kindle, but the assumption is that that's true for Kindle as well. Partly many of the print books, partly I think as children get older, if you're talking about ebooks, there is some effectiveness in using those to get kids engaged in reading and interested in reading. And some of the ebooks that we make, I don't know, are you going to talk about any of those? That have pictures that are appropriate vocabulary for kids would be effective. Not for that 0 to 2 though. Any other questions? We'll take more later. All right. Dr. Kleiner.